In recent days, Israeli airstrikes have intensified over Gaza City, flattening high-rise towers and residential buildings in what is described by many observers as part of a larger offensive to secure control over the city. Among the most notable events was the destruction of Al Ghafri Tower, a 20-story high-rise in western Gaza City, which stood among the tallest in the enclave. According to reports, the Israeli military issued an evacuation order to residents moments before targeting the tower, claiming it was being used by Hamas for infrastructure or command purposes. The destruction has left hundreds of families homeless and disrupted media offices and businesses that were housed in the building. Neighborhoods densely packed with displaced persons from other parts of Gaza were also affected, amplifying the humanitarian impact. The scope of destruction extends beyond one tower. Over the past week, at least 16 buildings, including several high-rise towers, have been leveled in Gaza City as part of the escalating military campaign. The Israeli military asserts that many of these buildings contained Hamas surveillance equipment, command posts, or other militant infrastructure, claims that are disputed by Palestinian groups who say that the demolished buildings were primarily residential or served as shelters for displaced civilians. Hospitals and local authorities in Gaza report dozens of fatalities in these strikes, including women and children. For example, a strike in the Sheikh Radwan neighborhood resulted in the death of 10 members of a single family. Prior to many of the strikes, there were warnings from the Israeli military urging civilians to evacuate the targeted areas. In some cases, these warnings came mere minutes before the bombing. Critics argue that the short notice is insufficient for safely moving vulnerable populations, especially families with young children and elderly relatives, or those with limited mobility. There is also widespread distrust from the Palestinian side regarding the designated safe zones, areas Israel tells civilians to move toward for protection. Reports indicate that even these zones have come under attack or are lacking in basic services, shelter, or infrastructure to support large numbers of displaced persons. The casualty toll continues to climb. Medics and health authorities in Gaza report that dozens are killed in every large strike, with many more injured. In at least one strike on a tower claimed to house Hamas intelligence functions, 12 children were among the dead. The overall numbers of displaced persons are staggering. Thousands have fled their homes in the city, many multiple times, often with nothing but what they can carry. Hospitals are overwhelmed, supplies stretched thin, and access to water, food, and medical treatment continues to degrade as infrastructure is damaged and transport routes are disrupted. On the military's side, the stated objective is to weaken or dismantle Hamas's presence within Gaza City, which Israel considers a major stronghold. High-rise buildings, owing to their height and vantage points, are alleged by the Israeli government to have been used for surveillance or command functions. Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz, among others, has publicly claimed that many of the buildings destroyed or targeted were integral to Hamas's operations. Whether or not each specific claim is substantiated in open, independent investigations is often unclear. The fog of war and access limitations make full verification difficult. From the perspective of civilians, these strikes amount to escalating crisis. Many say they have nowhere safe to go. Displacement is repeated. Some who left earlier in the conflict have returned only to flee again. In the face of warnings and orders to evacuate, many remain due to lack of trust, lack of resources, or fear of moving into zones that may prove unsafe. There are reports of families sleeping in open areas or makeshift shelters, exposed to weather, disease, and hunger. Humanitarian agencies warn that without a ceasefire or at least a major de-escalation, civilian suffering is likely to spiral further. On the international stage, responses have been strong and mixed. United Nations agencies, human rights organizations, and some states have condemned what they characterize as disproportionate destruction and risk to civilian lives. Others emphasize Israel's right to defend itself against militant threats, particularly given the October 2023 attack by Hamas, and concern about ongoing rocket fire, hostage situations, and the perceived need to degrade militant infrastructure. The diplomatic pressure is increasing, with calls for investigations, ceasefires, and respect for international humanitarian law from many corners of the world. The longer-term implications are grave. Beyond the immediate devastation, loss of life, homes, infrastructure, there is the question of rebuilding, accountability, and peace. Gaza's civilian population faces not only the physical damage, but deep psychological trauma, economic collapse, and a humanitarian crisis that risks becoming permanent. The destruction of essential services and housing will require massive investment and international assistance. Meanwhile, the lack of clarity or agreement about what constitutes legitimate military target versus what is protected under law means that disputes over legitimacy and blame are likely to endure. As the conflict continues, the world watches, hoping for protection of civilians, insistence on accountability, and a path toward reducing suffering rather than